Hello.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. Whew,
Happy Monday
I
before
know.
we take a 2-week
2 week
hiatus from the stream?
hiatus. Yeah, because you're on vacation next week, and then the
Mhm.
week after is Memorial Day, and Jake and I are doing the pond extravaganza.
And I will
It's
So
be
about
at home,
time.
so I will be.
So
I
This will be the last
know.
one. So when the hiatus is done, it'll be just Stephen and Kelly
And we'll
until when?
cry.
until sometime in September.
We will do a lot of crying.
Yeah.
Will be tears.
Okay, we're not losing you the whole summer like we did
You're
Well,
gonna
I
be
will
last
still
mad.
be
time.
here. I'm just not going to be on screen.
You're gonna
Okay.
still mod.
Mhm.
Because if you go away, Fat Kitty will cry himself to sleep every night.
And we don't want that.
Yeah.
We don't want that. I mean, we
Yeah.
understand if you aren't here every week because you're busy, but you have to be here some weeks.
Oh, I will.
You
He's
have to be here
definitely.
most weeks. Okay.
So
Deal then.
straight out the gate, QC said, I have kind of a long, multifaceted plants question that is probably too long to fit in 200 characters. Bex made a good suggestion, posted in
Yeah,
the
put
fish
it in
cord.
Oh, yeah.
Fishcord. I was gonna suggest you message it to Steven, but Fishcord is also acceptable.
Yeah, and
Because
then you
we
can get
want to
help
help you.
from multiple angles too, because there's plant people in fish cord that are not on panel.
Exactly. I don't
Mhm.
know. Mike might have to go lie down because I triggered him so much.
What did you do?
I posted untrimmed zip ties. Can't handle that. It's too hard for him.
Oh,
They're the
I
really
have.
big ones too.
Okay.
He's triggered. Maybe you
I'm
should
about
show
to.
it, Steven. It's in the plan
Well, I was
section.
gonna hold on. I was gonna show my untrimmed zip ties. I just took a video 5 minutes before I hopped on panel
And Jenna,
because.
thank you for posting that. Everyone, please,
Mhm.
Debbie Holding, if
Oh yeah.
her grandson is in need of help, he has some difficulties in life. He's just a baby, and if you can spare any help for him, please do so. We're hoping the best for the little guy, and Debbie is a person who's very dear to our hearts.
Mhm.
We want to keep this little guy in our hearts too. So thank you, Jenna.
Yeah, I pinned that at the top of chat,
Great.
and so it'll be there for people to see. Yeah, Jenna was like reading me some of the stuff that he will have to deal with, and
Yeah.
like the terminology. I'm like, I'm gonna have to ask Kelly what all this means because.
Yeah, it's a very, just to summarize it, it's a very rare genetic condition. He has fairly large chromosomal deletion. It's several genes that are deleted. Some of those genes we don't even know the function of. We don't know if
40 genes, I think, is what
yeah,
it said.
and some of those genes are more important than others. We probably want to have all of them. So he's going to have several difficulties, and his family could use all of our support. So
Yeah, 100%.
this little guy, and he can use our thoughts and keeping him in our hearts. So yeah.
All right, about to trigger Bex too.
Yeah, but Rebecca never trims her zip ties either. That's my girl.
I just didn't have access. I mean, look, I can't just use regular scissors on these zip ties. They're
Yeah, they're
thick.
heavy duty. And Geek raises a good point. You have to trim them correctly. Otherwise, if it snags against your hand and when you're moving around, it'll draw blood. So
You don't want to do. It's not worth your health.
Okay, so I have a pond, people. I have a real life pond with water
Yay!
movement and live plants. I've got Brookley's lily. I didn't have anything else to prop hers up, so hers is kind of
It'll be
a
fine.
little further away from the surface.
It doesn't matter. It'll be just fine.
So this is the surface movement I have now after turning that other pump all the way down.
It's probably okay. That's probably okay because you have the water lily at the other end, anyways.
Right, that's what I figured.
And you're gonna sink. You can probably sink that water lily down. I don't know. Next week. It'll be fine. You could have sunk it
You mean
down
when I
anyway.
get back from Florida?
Yeah. Once you get
Look
back.
at this big old zip tie stems.
Berkeley says all zip ties must be trimmed perfectly. It just doesn't bother me.
Come trim them, Brooklyn. You're going to be stopping by the house to take care of the fish.
You zip tied that
Bring your-
baby back together.
But you gotta be careful when you're trimming that particular zip tie. You gotta be careful because that zip tie is holding that pond together. So
Yeah.
Well,
no,
if you
take any
know,
chances with
I
it.
would just leave it. Here's
Okay.
the thing: trimming those zip ties ain't gonna make it better looking.
Shut up, Kelly.
I mean,
I love
it's gonna look better.
Look, there's life in there. It's thriving.
Yeah, I find it admirable that it's still kicking after so long and how everything's
It made it
running
through.
without any input.
I mean,
so.
he's the author of the Muck Tub Handbook.
It made it through our harshest climates, winter and summer. So,
You could add a couple floating plants to there.
I'm gonna put some water lettuce or something in there. I took it out for the winter, and then I put some red roots back in there. So if you notice, I actually have it's the same bin, but now it's a bin inside of a bin to reinforce it. I drained most of the water out, and then me and Jenna lifted it. And as we were lifting the main tub, chunks of it were just like snapping off like it was brittle. I could have kicked it and the
It's
whole
probably
thing would
the
have
UV,
exploded.
like doing a number on the tub. And yeah.
So I have another one in there. However long that lasts, and you can see it's already bowing out. So yeah, that'll be fun. But yes, very untrimmed. Bet they don't work any better than your belt. What? Oh, okay.
Chat has gotten a little bit NC-17.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, Kenny has the same cable ties for playtime.
By
Oh my
playtime, does he mean like his model railroad?
I was just gonna say handcuffs
It's
at
a
least have the
daytime
safety
string,
latch
yes.
on them. These things, like you gotta get garden shears to cut them.
You can injure yourself with zip ties.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yep.
Be safe, guys. Be safe. Don't many plastics go brittle in the sun? Yes,
most
a lot
of
of them. Yeah.
many of them do. These feed tanks, water troughs, or what are they called? Stock tank tubs. Those are pretty durable. They're made to be outside in the sun because they're for watering your cattle. But that thing, yeah, it's gonna go brittle. It has gone brittle. It will go more brittle. It's got gambusia in there. I don't know. They'll probably somehow survive.
Just in a puddle after all this leaks out.
So QC posted a bunch of stuff in the chat. Did we miss?
Okay, let's go back.
Matt uses zip ties to keep his pants up.
I bet it works well. It
You
just
know
when
what?
you gotta.
You don't want your pants falling down.
Nah, but sometimes you gotta go real
I
bad
was just saying,
after.
you really have to.
Okay.
Okay, so all my
Discord.
tanks have organic potting soil capped with sand and sometimes gravel on that. I dose Easy Green once a week with the recommended about and Easy Carbon too. So I would forego the Easy Carbon. It is an algicide. It is not doing anything for your plants. And I might forego the Easy Green too because you have soil. I don't think you'll need it.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on a second. Let's go further back though. So when a plant is high light, for how long are the lights to be on high every day? Is 2 hours of highlight with 6 hours of medium okay? Because his problem is even injecting CO2 in a tank, the high light plants don't do well, and medium light plants end up with BBA.
So the reason that's happening is not because of the light. The BBA is an indicator of a really high level of organics in your water, which makes sense with an organic soil and a sand cap. That's the main culprit.
So
and
that
your plants aren't
organic
going to be really
potting soil, one of the issues with it, and I don't know if when you noticed, you know when you were handling it, like there were like lots of little twiggy bits and stuff. as those degrade, they're going to leach all kinds of grossness into your tank. So one thing, if you're going to use soil, I recommend doing is getting like a compost sifter. They're like a wire screen, and sifting all those twiggy bits out. And then some people, they go further, and I have done this in an apartment, which you should not do. You can soak it in water for a couple weeks and like pour some of that off, and then I'll get some of the ammonia out. You can go even further than that, and you can soak it, let it dry on a tarp in the sun, and that's going to get even more of the ammonia out. But if you didn't do anything, you have to wait for that to decompose, and that's going to take how long it takes. And your tank might balance in the meantime, but it could take a very long time, and BBA is just one of the things you're going to have to deal with the soil substrate. In the meantime, test your water and see what your nitrates are at. My guess is you don't need any easy green with the soil substrate. I would keep your lights somewhat lowish in the meantime and just deal with it. You don't
I heard way too many cons against using soil for me to ever even try it.
I mean, I've done it, and I have. It's
harder to balance, right?
It's a knife edge, and the thing is, this is like when aqua soils cost money, but they are a consistent product that you know what you're dealing with.
Yep, I think that's one of those things that I budget for is the aqua soil. I just whenever I do a new tank now, I just have to accept that substrate is going to be an expense.
Yeah, and before I had that kind of budget, I just used black diamond blasting sand straight up. And you have to dose a little bit more. The plants take more time to get going. They're not quite as good, but it's not as big of an algae explosion as soil. I mean, lots of people like soil. It can go well, but I would at the very least sift it first. But now that your tank is already set up, if you don't want to tear it down, which I understand, maybe up your water changes, lower your lights.
Oh, yeah. If I had set one up, I would insist on trying to make it work. But just hearing other people talk about it, I'm just like, I don't know.
If it's a small tank, I would fucking tear it down.
Yeah, the smaller the tank, the harder it is to, even if you want to run a dirted tank, it's going to be harder because there isn't.
For sure. If it's like a 10-gallon, just tear it down. If it's a 75, maybe I would try it for a while. I don't know.
All right, so we got Gary Chodero. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but hopefully
it's close. Welcome. That's a new name. Or new to me, at least. But
I've seen the name once before. So yes, new. So is there a water lily that will survive in his indoor pond?
Tiger lotus.
Yeah, tiger lotus, dwarf aquarium lily, the other one. There are other Nymphaea species that are grown in the aquarium.
Any of the tropical ones will do fine. They'll get huge is the issue, whereas tiger lotus stays pretty small, and the what is it, Nymphaea?
Dwarf aquarium. Nymphaea.
So Rebecca says Zinkerai. That's sold as tiger lotus. Okay.
Tiger lotus. Yeah, it's not really a lotus. It's not a lotus. It's a water lily. So, because Mike always likes to trigger me that way, so that's why I posted untrimmed zip ties for him. So, yeah, welcome, Gary. Glad to have you here. So, obviously, I ran soil sand cap tanks. Why would I not be getting BBA? Does it take years? Maybe your soil's different. It's not a consistent product. And different people get different algae, and sometimes it works.
Yeah, BBA has never taken long to appear for me, if I'm going to get it.
Yeah, and I never get BBA here. I get every other kind of algae. When I lived in Iowa, I got BBA. I got tons of it. Everybody has different water. Everybody has different conditions. And soil is not a consistent product. It's not a consistent product. So, So CoralWorks says dirted tanks just feel significantly more realistic in terms of attempting to make an ecosystem in a glass box than simply sand or gravel or commercial aqua soil. But that's a feeling, not truth. Yeah, and if it makes you happy, I guess do it. But that is in your head.
Yeah, I
In your
It
mean,
being
head.
an
it's imagine.
ecosystem not
Yeah.
close enough to make it an ecosystem compared to an aqua soil and sand because you're still
Yeah.
having a closed environment and soils in an ecosystem that the water is being changed, so whatever's leaching out of the soil is constantly being taken out.
And
Soil
aqua
leaches stuff
soil
faster than
has
aqua soil does.
bacteria. You know, it's
Yeah.
not a sterile product.
Yeah, it
And
comes
sand
from
is
or
not a
it comes
sterile
it's an
product.
organic product. It's made from volcanic
Exactly.
ash and yeah,
The,
rice paddies,
the
scales,
only
yep.
way to truly have a mature system for an aquarium is time.
Yep.
That's it. That's it. There's no shortcuts. And it can take a full year to really mature a tank.
Mhm. Let's see. So QC said that the dirty tank in question is a 40 breeder and at least a couple of years old. So
Well, I
It is
mean, and sometimes algae is just they happen seasonally. I'm dealing with some algae right now in this tank, some green dust algae that just started popping up, and it's driving me nuts. You
and
know,
Gary's indoor pond is 60 gallons.
with mature tanks, I think it's good to clean your filter. That's what I just did this weekend. I'm hoping that helps. Maybe your water has changed seasonally. Some municipalities do that. Check your temperature. Maybe it's a little hot in your house. That could help to get it a little bit lower. Might be something you have to wait out. It sucks though. It sucks. For beard algae, I recommend manually removing infected leaves as much as possible. Just trim them away. Just get rid of it. Just get rid of it. On substrate, I like to use a peroxide and a syringe. But I kind of go scorched earth on it.
Oh yeah, like just do you stop the water flow and just kind of let it sit there?
Yeah.
Depends on how I'm dosing it. Yeah, if I'm doing the whole tank, then I keep the flow on as much as possible. But if I'm only spot dosing, then I turn the flow off so that it sits there as much as possible.
I think that
One
spot
more thing I
dosing is more effective, but go on, Myrtle.
One more thing I do, if the algae is not on a plant or substrate, what I do is I boil water and then, like if it's on an equipment, like the top of a filter, just boil water or on glass or on the silicone, just boil water, fill it up in a syringe and blast it directly at the algae. It kills it instantly, like much faster than peroxide or some people use Excel or stuff like that. So
yeah, and I
boiling
don't
water
like
works on it.
I don't like using Easy Carbon or Excel. I just think it's glutaraldehyde is a poison.
Yeah.
They say it's fish safe, and at a certain dose, I suppose it is fish safe.
But at that dose, it's not doing anything for the algae or anything
It's
either.
not good.
No.
It's not good.
So Rebecca says dirted is often based on some misleading idea of nature doesn't help with pollution. Many rivers and lakes are getting very silted.
Yeah, very true.
And Tommy was saying, so y'all are against the idea of a dirted or against calling it a proper ecosystem. I understand some language is tossed around regarding definitions. Just curious, not stirring the pot or anything. For me, I'm not a biologist and I'm not an ichthyologist. I can't tell you exactly what is in nature, but I'm of the opinion that there's really no such thing as like creating pure nature in a glass box. You can add features of nature in there, but you're still in control of it. And if you're going to be in control of it, you might as well use the available products and stuff to your advantage rather than because I like aesthetics.
This is not a biotope,
No,
you look
it is
at
an ecosystem. It's not a biotope. Ecosystem and natural things. They're two different things. Ecosystem is anything where things are working together as a system.
Right.
Oh, and Geek is saying basically the same thing. They're working together in a unit of space, be it the Earth or your tank or something like that. But nature it's trying to mimic what's outside, which you can't really do very easily in a tank.
Right. It's a closed system, and the only way to get a mature ecosystem in a tank, I don't care what your substrate is. I don't care if you're using like the purest lake silt or topsoil from a super organic source. The only way to get a mature system in aquarium is time. That's it.
Yeah.
Because those bacteria have to reach equilibrium. There's a succession that happens of different algae and different bacteria moving in and then dying away, and that takes time. And that's why, for instance, I have come to learn that you need to wait a long time to add Stiphodon gobies to a tank.
Yeah,
Because
similar
they
with
need
like
it to
adding
develop
shrimp,
the phenom.
At least,
shrimp or autosynchron, anything that like is survives from that development of biofilm and other stuff that you may not even see in the aquarium.
right. It takes time, and I have been impatient, and I have lost Stiphodon gobies because of that. But this time I have Stiphodon gobies right here. They're doing awesome because this tank is over a year old. It's 2 years old. So
Now,
they were a
does
year and
it,
a half when I got them.
in order to call something an ecosystem, does it have to be self-sustaining in the sense that you don't even have to feed
As long
it?
as things are working together, like if you have a
You can
plant
call
that's
you can
that's
call
being fed by the fish, if the fish are being helped by the oxygen coming out of the plant, that's an ecosystem. It doesn't have to. Yeah.
you can
Right.
call anything you want an ecosystem. You can call my house an ecosystem. You can
It definitely
call
is. Yeah.
my office
The
an
skin that falls
ecosystem.
off of Kelly feeds the bugs
Yeah,
and the dust mites, and
yeah.
spiders are
Right.
eating the bugs that are in the house. So it's
Because
an
I
It
could call
supports
like
men, cats. I
the
mean,
live bearer mosh pit an ecosystem, even though you would never
for sure.
find such a thing in nature.
Exactly. It's
It's
not a
still
biofilm.
it's still
Not a
working.
biofilm.
Like
Yeah,
I'm
it's
not
not a
having to
biofilm.
intervene to an extent that
Yeah.
that like if I walk away from it for a week, it's just going to collapse.
Yeah, and Rebecca says I think aquariums take a few years to mature. Yeah, I mean it takes time.
They're always changing. They're always
They're always
undergoing cycles
changing.
and processes.
Yeah, it takes time. And the other thing it takes, and I'm a firm believer in this, aquariums are closed systems. Therefore, we must change the water. We must clean the filters. We must add food. We must remove waste. They're closed systems. So that's the other thing. But yeah, it takes time. There's no shortcut for that. Whatever substrate you use, some are easier to work with than others. I am not a huge fan of soil in an aquarium. I use soil in other things though. When I make terrariums, I use soil. When in my pond, I make a homemade substrate. And part of that is because, man, Rebecca and I were talking about this. Pond substrate in the US pre-made costs a fortune. 88 aqua soil costs less.
And I'm not against soil because I think it is or isn't natural or ecosystem or like I'm only against it because it sounds like it pushes the limits of my patience and my work ethic.
And
So
I've done it. I did a mineralized topsoil this was a thing that was a fad a few years ago. A few meaning like 15 years ago. And it was a mineralized topsoil. A bunch of people at the club in the Washington, D.C. area. It's called GWAPA, the Greater Washington Area Plant Association. Lots of really, really great aquatic gardeners in that club, and always has been. It was a popular thing with them. There was a wildlife limnologist who was in the club, and he kind of started popularizing it. It was based on the composition of natural soils. And what you did was, you took soil and then you like Miracle-Gro organic choice topsoil, and you sieved out all the twiggy bits, and then you soaked it to get rid of the ammonia, and you soaked it, and then you dried it on a tarp, and you got this like fine silty substance out of it. And then after that, you added some dolomite, which is a kind of limestone, and you added a little bit of Montmorillonite clay. And let's see what else. Just a tiny sprinkling of potash, which is a natural form of potassium. And then, yeah, so Silver Creek says, no, 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 no miracle growth or anything. This is just the topsoil, the organic choice topsoil. It's just dirt. You can also use cheap, no-name topsoil, and that works too. But what I'm
I
here to
used
tell you is this.
potting mix for the lily.
Yeah, I did too. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
So, anyways, yeah, you do that, and then you cap it with sand, and some people have great results with it. But if you don't get it sieved perfectly, if you don't get
Mhm.
get it dried out all the way, it doesn't work. So, yeah, I mean, some people would use dirt from their yard. You can do that.
I probably
So,
could have done that, but yeah, I had bags. Like I had bags of potting mix that were several years old. They were just still in the bag. They had been laying on the ground, so they were like it was muddy and full of worms. I'm like, this seems good. It works.
yeah, I mean, and some people for their ponds, if you live in an area of the country that has heavy clay soil, you can
Hmm.
just straight up use your dirt from your garden. We don't have heavy clay soil here. We have a lot more organic component. So that's why I don't use that. And our soil is also too lightweight. You want something really, really heavy in a pond because you don't want it floating up. So
Yeah.
yeah. Um,
And this is not relevant to anything we're talking about, but
it's not.
I
I
just
wouldn't
took
use
a picture
it.
of the puffer.
Hi, Puffer. You look great. Look at your puffer face. So cute. I think
Yeah,
I think he might need a couple friends eventually.
Mm-hmm.
I think so too. But
Yeah.
she is staying a lot more like in the front and showing herself a lot more nowadays. She's feeling more secure
Good.
because I have so many
That's
plants
good.
back there.
Yeah, that's probably. Some fish take a long time to settle in.
Yeah, I think she's one of them.
Yeah. I mean, Stiphodon gobies take a while to settle in too, I think. They
I
take.
had them. They were never very front coming. They were always reclusive.
Yeah, these are
I mean,
now
you'd
front and
see them if they're
center.
grazing, they'd stop. But yeah.
Yeah, these are now front and center. Like they'll even hang on the glass. Like there's 3 of them I see right now. But I think the other thing is I got like 20 of them. They seem to really like
Yeah.
numbers. Yeah. And Beck says puffers take longer than most to settle. Some fish
Mm-hmm.
do. Yeah. I am not experienced in puffers. I've never
They're
had
smart, I guess. It's
Yeah.
like a cat. A
Cute.
cat you have to earn the cat's love. Not like a
Cats
dog.
can take years to figure it out, damn
Hmm.
it. Not like dogs. Dogs figure it out quick. They're either
Dogs are like, I love you forever. Oh, a stranger, I love you forever too.
or they're like, no, we're never gonna get along. They
Yeah.
make your minds up quick. Yeah, but cats like because it took like 3 years before Fat Kitty and Big Kitty liked each other. And then one day they'd take naps together on the bed. It's like, oh, now they're cordial coworkers. I mean, they don't cuddle or anything, but like, they're coworkers.
They're getting along now.
Yeah, they're doing their cat business together.
They're
So
at the point where both coworkers know each other's names and like generally what department they work in. They're
right,
not
but
work friends yet.
they're not
Yeah.
BFFs. But
Being professional.
They're cordial coworkers. Takes cats longer because they're not awake very long. So Rico says 2 of my newly split water lilies are sending up leaves. Haven't seen anything from the third one yet, but it's in the deep end. That's fantastic. Yeah, and you can give those to some friends. That'll be great.
So
I sent
whenever
out a lot of water lilies this year.
we're leaving to go to Disney World on Friday, and we'll be back the following Saturday. What should I expect the lilies to have done in the next week and a half?
It's pretty warm there, so they'll send out some more pads.
It's pretty warm. It's miserably warm right now. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll send out some more pads, and you fertilized it, so they're not going to bloom yet. I don't think that one takes probably 6 weeks to bloom. I want to say it's not an earliest blooming one. The one that I gave Brookley, because that one is a little bit smaller of a spread, that one, that one will bloom the soonest. I have a bud on mine already, so I think it will bloom next couple weeks. So
Oh,
that
sweet.
was the soonest of them. But yeah, it'll throw up more pads. It'll throw up more pads, and it'll be just fine. You don't need to do anything to it. It'll be just fine.
I'd also like to, just before I leave, throw some trimmings in there, like bacopa or something like that. So if I do that, should I put any kind of water column fertilizer before I go?
No, I wouldn't
I
bother.
don't think so. You really, yeah.
I figure that the dirt is leaching something. You know, like there's.
I wouldn't bother. But what I would do is I would pot them in gravel, and I would cut them to below the water line, and I would let them emerge above on their own because they need to convert. And if you just put them out in the baking sun
They're
from
just going to dry and shrivel up and close.
yeah. So that's why I would just trim them to the water line.
Yep. And if you're feeling lazy, you can just plop them across on the surface, and they'll eventually start growing up, and then they'll start out really soon. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was more along the lines of what I was thinking of, like trimmings just in there.
Yep. Whatever survives, they'll survive because they're just trimmings. They're not really.
You can do that too. I mean, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I've got no shortage of bacopa.
Yeah, I mean, really, whatever. Yeah, throw it in. Doesn't matter. But if you want it to like flower and be immersed, you're probably going to want to put it in gravel. But if you don't have time and you don't care, just throw it in.
Yeah.
Just throw it in.
I want to take some of those purple bacopas and put them in there because they all my purples have turned mostly green, maybe a little bit of it's not.
But outside in the sun, especially when they grow immersed, because they do have the coloration. Some of them do. When they grow immersed, they also have that coloration.
I have never seen that one immersed, but I would like to see it immersed. I think it would be cool. So yeah, give it a shot.
Talking about worm castings.
Worm castings, they're very popular for I use those in my pots. My my terrestrial pots. I also use compost in those because I subscribe to a compost service because I compost all my bunny litter, and she takes it away every other week along with my vegetable scraps and stuff, and then she gives me bags of compost, and I use that in my pots.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm not going to use it in my aquariums, but I have 3 aquariums. And I don't set up
new aquariums. You don't want to use
Yeah. Whereas like I set up new outdoor pots of flowers every year, and I'm in the middle of that now, and I did a bunch of it today, and I did a bunch of it over the weekend, and I have a lot more to go. So yeah. Silver Creek says bunny litter is a great compost. Yes. My yard is 15 feet by 15 feet. I don't have room for a compost pile. It's just not something I can have. So that's why I use a compost service. And that way, I'm not just throwing it out. Kind of a nice thing to do for the environment. And I have bins of it that just get hauled away, and then I get compost in return. So Matt says, compost service. I have 2 years of chicken coop bedding she can come and get. The pile is getting huge. Matt, you have a yard. You can set up your own compost pile.
Yeah.
It's really easy to do. My parents and my sister both have compost piles. It's great for your garden.
Brooklyn's got one going too.
Everything. Yeah, it's a great thing to do. I just don't, my yard is 15 feet by 15 feet. I just don't have the space. I have so little room.
If you've got room for compost, you got room for another pond.
Exactly. I just, as is, like kind of every bit of space is planned for. So, yeah. So freshwater ichthyology says, I know cat litter is popular for bonsai. So I have talked to her about composting the cat litter, and she will only take herbivore poop. So even though I use the same litter for both of them, I use the pelletized wood bedding because it's good cat litter and bunny litter. She won't take that. I wish she would, because that'd be one less thing I'd be throwing out. God knows I have lot of cat litter every week. But yeah, it would be a nice thing to be able to compost that too. So
Yeah.
just less going in the landfill. So
I'm not sure if the cat litter we use would be suitable because it's got
the clumps.
well, I think it's
And
perfumed or something. It's scented in some way.
Yeah, and you can't just go changing your cat litter, especially with an old cat, because like
No.
they could just be like, you know what, I'm gonna pee in your bed instead. Fuck you.
Yeah. And it's like I don't trust that you switch back to the right litter. So
yeah, so
like,
I would
I'm a bed peeing cat now.
I would not mess with that either. So Rebecca says worms in compost bins creep me out. I have had friends who've done worm bins before. Back when I was a grad student, someone in a lab next to us actually had a worm bin. They're like red wriggler worms, and they will eat the food waste for you and turn it into compost. And yeah, he composted all kinds of things. Like he'd throw a banana peel in there and it would compost it. So yeah, it's a thing you can do. It's a thing I don't do because like some fucking cat's gonna get into it and like either pee in it or knock it over. And
Gross.
I just I just can't handle anymore.
I'm not creeped out by worms though because I did so much fishing in my youth.
They're
Like
nematode.
I see.
They're tiny, tiny, tiny worms.
Oh no, I don't want
They're
that.
not-
I want earthworms.
Yeah, these are red wrigglers. They're kind of nematode. But it's a thing you can do. People will also compost with mushrooms. I mean, my parents and my sister, they just do like regular outdoor bins. So Rebecca says, I meant cat litter without the cat. I am not a fan of the aesthetics, but houseplants now people are using clay balls. Oh yeah, so you can use like plain unscented kitty litter. I mean, people have grown aquarium plants in it. You can use it in ponds. It's just clay. You have to be very careful to get the unscented kind. So, yeah. But yeah, it's something you can use. It's I would not use it in an aquarium because I would be afraid it would break down. So it's ugly. It is ugly. But in a pond, yeah, whatever. I'd use it.
Yeah, if you can't see it.
Yeah, I usually use sand and soil mix, but I would use it. I tried to get a safety Zorb, but it is not to be found in Fort Wayne. It is nowhere to be found. There's one person who buys all of it.
They must be having plans for the biggest pond, or they must be spilling a lot of oil, whatever they're doing.
What are they doing with it? Yeah, because
how much safety Zorb does one need, honestly? Not much.
So Warwork says you can compost with grindle worms. I don't know. I've always known about the red wrigglers. That's what people I've known have used. So, but I don't want to do it. I can't handle anymore. That's enough. There's enough critters I'm taking care of. I'm already oppressed. Matt says, Kelly, I told you last time your Fort Wayne had like 40 bags. Let me go look. So I haven't gone in a couple weeks, but the guy who was there said, yeah, every time we get it in, this is Tractor Supply, someone goes and buys the entire pallet of it.
Yeah.
So, but I have like plenty of sand on hand, and I'm waiting for 3 more water lilies and a couple of other plants to come in the mail. They haven't shipped yet, but yeah. So Scotty says, Kelly, you can probably get safety Zorb from Granger or an auto parts store. We get it by the pallet for the firehouse. Use racks. We don't have Granger around here. Suppose I could check the auto parts store, but I don't know. I have stuff. I just bought a bunch of sand. I think I'm good for potting up the rest of the stuff I need for this season. But maybe next season I'll try to find it somewhere else. I mean, I'm not opposed to using it. They didn't have it. So Scotty says Granger's online. I've never heard of it.
I've not heard of it either.
But I don't buy auto parts. This may shock you, Scotty, but I do not fix cars.
Kelly hates why?
I am not fixing any cars.
Cars go vroom vroom, and if they don't, bring it to the mechanic.
Yeah, Jake could fix cars. I mean, he's an engineer, but he hates it, so he never does it. Yeah, he just takes them in. When he was a kid, he had to fix things on the farm all the time, and he's just done. He's done. So Silver Creek says Granger is a great warehouse supply store. I've never heard of it. Corework says, is it like McMaster car, right? I have never heard of these things. Like I said, I'm never gonna fix a car. So
Oh, Matt's saying that they're a wholesaler that generally won't work with the public.
I don't want a whole pallet of it. I want like a bag.
Red wigglers will live in an aquarium if not eaten. No, nah, I don't want that. I don't
I
want to
would
freak
think my
out.
rainbows would eat them. I mean, what won't they eat? They are big.
Yeah, rainbow tanks, I seldom see any kind of like worm or I definitely never see hydra.
Whenever people talk about how they have fish or like picky eaters, and like on Backstream, you were talking about garlic guard to get picky fish to eat. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not an issue for my fish because I can.
No, well, I mean, for the most part, I've not had something like that. The pickiest fish I've ever had was a batis, and that's just
really?
just frozen food, and that was all you like. It just wouldn't eat prepared foods.
I think if you have a rainbow fish you won't eat, it will probably be dead in 5 minutes. I mean, they just
Yeah,
There's something wrong with a rainbow that doesn't want to eat. Yeah.
right.
something really
Same with
wrong.
light bears. If they don't want to eat,
I've
then
even
there's definitely
seen
something
sick
going on
rainbows
inside
eat.
them.
Yeah, I've even seen sick rainbows eat. They're good eaters. They're good eaters. Yeah.
So check out. I have this plant growing in a pot because I just never took it out.
Nice and healthy.
P. Helferi.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, you can probably pull the whole thing out of the pot, take out the rock wool,
Yeah.
and find the very beginning of the plant and just like trim it up and spread it out a little bit so that each
Yeah.
one of those stems sends out side shoots and all. Because
Mhm.
Yep.
Bogosium and Hellfry is definitely very slow in sending out side shoots. So now that it's this big, you should be comfortable splitting it and making more plants after.
Yeah, I'll probably put all of it in this tank too.
I'm not a fan of P. Helferi.
What?
I know. I think it looks weird.
Well, that's why I like it because it's
It's
so
the only
unique.
plant that's close to a palm tree. So if you want to make a beach style scape, it's one of the only plants you can use.
I mean, for my banana plant, right? Which, if you didn't know, one of the custom emojis for this channel is a banana plant. So feel free to
Yes,
spam
become a
the
member and then
And
send
who went and
banana
did
plant.
that?
It's in the Discord too.
Yeah,
So,
I figured
wow,
might as
it
well.
says, blasphemy. Who doesn't like P. Helfry? This girl right here. I don't know. We all have things that I'm not triggered by it, right? I'm kind of triggered by Rotalas. Just because
Yes, if you don't have the time for it, yes, it's definitely
Yes.
something you don't want.
However, people who trim their Rotalas well and scape with them beautifully, I think they're very, very beautiful.
Mhm.
I just don't want to have it.
Myrtle, can you identify this plant here just based on seeing this leaf?
Yep, that is river buttercup, ranunculus
That's
arendalis.
ranunculus, yeah.
Yep.
You can
It
tell
grows
it's
like a
a
weed. You should probably
ranunculus.
have like
Yeah.
a billion times that much in a week. It grows
Terrestrial ranunculi, anything in that family has leaves that look kind of like that. So there are lots of spring blooming plants that look like that. It's just very.
And then I genuinely don't remember what kind of Ludwigia this is.
It's some type of Ludwigia repens. It might be Ludwigia repens ex arcuata, if that's the same one you gave me.
No, it's actually it's a different one.
It might
Like
be a repens.
these leaves
It's
aren't
not
as narrow. The
ovalis, it's
leaves
not
get
oval,
larger.
you know.
Yeah, it might be a cross. I think it came from Luke, and Luke popped in the chat, so maybe he can
Luke,
tell
what
me.
plant is that? Luke.
Yeah, Luke.
Luke.
What stem did you curse him with?
I don't make spreadsheets, so sometimes I have to be reminded of what I've got.
So Scotty asked, does it have to be Safety Sword brand or can it be Oil Dry brand? I don't know. I don't know
You
that
just
I
want to
would
look
trust.
at what it actually is. You want to look at
Yeah, if it's like
what-
fired Montmorillonite clay, it's okay. But if it has any other additives or like fragrance. I wouldn't trust it.
Yep.
Yeah. So I don't know. What kind of plant should someone grow in a bog filter with the intent of profit, store credit at the LFS, or club swaps at the end of the summer? The issue is they're all going to be submersed. So, I mean, I personally wouldn't want to buy a bunch of submersed plants that are going to grow, that are aquarium plants. However, there are pond plants you could grow that maybe you could divide up and sell, that you could make money with, like pickerel rush or dwarf cattails or lobelia cardinalis or blood dock. You know, those are slower growing, but you could sell those. You're not going to sell them to an LFS, but you could sell them at club swaps. You could sell them to other pond people. I just don't have a whole lot of interest in like 25 immersed stems.
Yeah.
Maybe
Because
other
then you
people
have to
have other ideas.
convert it when you get it yourself, and most of it's going to die back anyways. And
Yeah, especially to a store, because a store is not going to take good care of them usually. Most stores don't
won't even know
have.
what to do with it. They'll just treat it as a regular stem plant. And they'll
Yeah,
punch it up
they
with
don't have
lead.
CO2. They don't have. So then they're going to have a bunch of like dead looking stems on their hands. Probably not going to be real happy with. So I think your best bet would maybe to look into different pond plants that you could divide and maybe sell. The thing is like they may not be ready to divide and sell after 1 year. It might take 2 or 3 years, and you're not going to get rich off it. But you know, you could make enough money to buy other pond plants. You could make enough money to, or you could have cool things to swap with friends. Would be cool. I just don't think a bog is a way to get rich. Actually, I don't think in general this hobby is a great way to get rich.
Yeah.
No, you can at least if you try hard enough, you can do the hobby for relatively low cost by offsetting it. But it takes some work, and sometimes you have to breed and propagate things that you're not really all that interested in, like bristlenose buckos.
Yeah, and their guppies people will pay a lot of money for. There's people will always buy your rotalas, especially if they're clean and they look nice. People will always buy your Java fern.
Got rotalas.
Yeah,
my Java fern is not for sale.
Java moss, Pogostem stellatus octopus, Bacopa, any species. Also, well, those are 6 on the front that will sell easily.
Yeah, Mike and I always laugh about this, but at club swaps, Java fern.
Those are what sell for the most price. Yeah.
Which I don't understand. I mean, because like for me, Java fern grows pretty quick because I run CO2. But if you're not a CO2 person, Java fern is kind of a slow growing plant.
Yep.
So you bring in a big clump of Java fern like this, I'm like,
and people
whatever.
start drooling with it. People have paid $20 for a small zip bag of duck leaves. So.
Bulbatus is another one. I'm getting rid of like trash bags of Bulbatus.
Which is what I'm frustrated with. You shouldn't be throwing that away. People will pay good money for that.
I know. Well, I sent a trash bag of it to Johnny at Dan's Fish to put in that tank behind Dan, and it makes me laugh.
And he kept that whole trash bag of it together. I like it though.
Funny. I'm like,
it's a nice dense clump of it.
Spread out throughout the tank, and he's like, "It's not moving. It's there forever." Just make me laugh.
Yeah,
they can't move.
I mean, in time,
it needs more plants in there anyway.
Some of the older leaves will die because they're so compacted, but it does look good in that corner right now as it is. So
it does.
I would have spread that. I literally had to put it in a trash bag because it wouldn't fit in any other bag I had. So, but again, like if you don't have CO2, it doesn't grow very fast. But I have heard of like a good sized clump of Bulbatus going for like $200 at Club.
Oh yeah, easily, yeah.
So
so Luke was asking, it's too fat to be the Repin's Arcuata. I have some of that. In fact, it's all out of frame, but it's in this tank.
It's like Little League X lacustris, but it's a little wider leaves. That's the only and a bit less red. So it's
Yeah, he said, does it have white? I don't think it's got whitish veins. Not really notable. And in terms of the side shoots, it's about as much as other Ludwigia does for me. So I don't know.
Yeah. So
Um,
Corework says pond plants don't sell in my area for experience.
mm,
Yeah, I mean, because if there's not many people who are into ponds, which like it's hard to get into ponds if like your garden centers don't sell pond stuff. So it's kind
Yeah,
of the
or if you live in an apartment,
self-fulfilling
so
thing.
the only people who can have ponds are homeowners or people with balconies or stuff like that.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, or they may not be educated about tub ponds. I mean,
Mhm.
like my garden center does have some pond plants and some that are cool, but all the water lilies they have are the ones that get huge. They don't have any of the tiny
We need
ones.
an actual
mm,
in-ground, like
Yeah, so
hundreds of
you need
thousands
like
of
a
gallons.
real, you need like a real pond to grow them. So,
mhm.
they're kind of not an option for me. But yeah, I just don't really see a bog filter as something to help recoup your hobby. Sorry.
But CO2 inject a tank full of Java fern apparently, and you're golden,
Exactly.
and with duckweed on top.
I mean, your other route you can go is like if you're really
It's
good at
super
growing
rare stem.
rare
Yep.
plants.
Which
So,
is
and
what
like
I
you
did when
have,
I was funding.
yeah, and if
I
you
wouldn't focus on the. Yep.
Yeah, and if you have soft water out of the tap, you can really, really do that. Like
Mhm.
Luke can. I mean, because he uses RO water, so he
Yeah,
can grow and sell rare plants.
And
Like
at
there's a
that
woman
point,
in
you don't sell by the bunch; you sell by the single stem or like a pack of two
you
stems, and you
do,
start to
and you
start the
kind
sale
of
at like $5 or $10. Yeah.
yeah, and you
yeah.
kind of gotta bring, build up a reputation as someone
Hmm.
people trust because like nobody wants to spend $5 a stem with someone they don't trust. I
Yep.
bought from this woman Lee May in Brooklyn
She has
before.
great plants. Yep. Anything you buy from her is going to be great. It's going to come at a price, but it's going to be really good and healthy.
Exactly. Yeah,
Uh,
everything I bought from her, I've been very, very pleased with. But she
Because
has
she's
that
got magic
soft
water
water
in
out
the
of the
Boston,
tap.
I think she's in, and she has a great water.
She's in Brooklyn. She's in
Oh,
Brooklyn. They
Brooklyn.
have
Oh.
super soft water in New York. So yeah, she's just got a farm of rare plants growing. So yeah, but otherwise, common plants with CO2, you can really farm them and make money. Surprising amounts of money. Plain Java ferns like Wentii, you can make a lot of money with clumps of that. But like Java fern,
Vallisneria. You can also do
Vallisneria,
Dorsaitarium.
yeah, true.
for sure,
Guppy
for
grass.
sure. Yep. Yeah,
Just
guppy
all
grass
the
because it
trap
doesn't stick
plants.
well. Java moss.
Locally, guppy grass for local. Yep.
Yeah,
Close.
and that would be like if you love auctions.
Whoa,
You're probably not going
what was
to
that?
be shipping Vallisneria. I don't know what that was. Was that? I don't think that was me.
I think Kelly went silent for a bit. Was that what it was?
Well,
Mm,
I heard like
like rustling.
yeah,
Mhm.
I don't know because my
Mm.
microphone is up here in my camera, so I don't know. I need an easy carpet plant that doesn't require CO2. I've got one for you. It's Marsilea, either Hirsuta or Carnata, either one. I have it in here and I love it. I do have CO2, but you don't need CO2. It's not high light, it's easy maintenance, it's awesome, it's pretty small. Good stuff.
Mhm.
Good
Yeah,
stuff.
and it's a little slow without CO2, but it won't die.
Yeah, and it doesn't require trimming, and it's not so crazy invasive that it's going to drive you nuts, which is what Sagittarius subulata is. So invasive. Also, it can get
Mhm.
super tall.
Yep. If
Not a
it doesn't have highlight, it's going to get really thin and really tall. It will be impossible to distinguish from Vallisneria if you have both of the tank.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
microsword's a good one too. Microsword narrowleaf. Um, Pearlweed is good too, except you have to. It's more maintenance
Beyond the
because it
constant
will
trimming.
just keeps going up.
yeah, I don't want to do that. Like glossostigma, it'll grow, but so much trimming. So
Mhm.
Another
Geek
good
Boy
one is
says,
the Leopsis. You don't need CO2 for that one. The
yeah,
Leopsis Brazilian.
it's a little invasive, but it's an option. So Geek
It
Boy
grows
says Java
laterally more than
fern
it spreads,
is
though.
me.
Yep, it'll just
Mhm.
go straight across here.
I think your water is maybe a little too soft, Geek Boy. Java fern does not like crazy low GH water, is what I've been told. I've never had crazy low GH water, so I do not know this. This is what I've been told. So it likes
Well,
at least a little.
it's it's supposedly a potassium hog. Maybe the reason it does so
It's
well
a
for me is
nutrient hog
because
in general.
I have to
If you
I,
add
look
I
at
would,
how thick
pH.
the leaves and the rhizomes are, it needs a lot of nutrients to make such a
yes,
thick plant.
I would agree with
Yeah,
that. And when I started like doubling and tripling down on my fertilizer in this tank, like I started just dosing of 1.5 doses of Easy Green every single day in this tank. All of a sudden, my Java ferns look great. Now, granted, there's a lot of plants in here, and I use CO2, and I also have my wall,
Houseplants. Yep.
houseplants. So I really do eat through a lot of it. But Java fern needs a lot of nutrients. So, and I don't know what kind of fertilizing you're doing, Geek Boy. I know you're kind of like not a big fertilizer guy. Like, I think that you like to use fish waste, which I don't think is enough for that plant.
maybe because he was using fertilizer and he was getting hair algae. So
I get that. Yeah, I get that.
let's see. Luke said, "I've never heard the Vallisneria Nana Yaba Creek in the 50. It's staying 2 inches tall. A Vallisneria that stays 2 inches tall."
I've never heard of this
Oh,
plant,
is
but
it
I
that
am
one where it's like it has a thick stalk in Luke? Is it the one with the thick stalk and then it's like sends out side shoots
hmm.
instead of runners? There is a Vallisneria that grows like that. It's
Hmm.
very different from all the other Vallisnerias. That might be the
It
one
sounds
he's
very
talking
different.
about.
Is it super invasive though? Because I got no time for
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
I don't think it's invasive. I haven't had it, but I've seen it in auctions before, and
Hmm.
it looks very
Haven't
different
Yeah,
seen
from
it, but I'm intrigued and wish to subscribe to its newsletter. So
like I've got Vallisneria Nana and it grows
Oh,
really
that's
freaking tall. It's
oh
Triptera
god,
is the one we're
yeah.
talking about. It's different.
I am
Triptera.
terrified of Vallisneria. It's too much. Leo asks what my favorite plant is. Aquarium calamistratum. I have a huge one in this tank right here. It is like this thick around. It's
Timmy.
massive. I never move it. It's awesome. I love it. It's a great plant. It's got cool leaves. If you're a person who likes to move your plants, it's not for you. It
This is not
doesn't
the
want
plan
to
for
be
you. Yep. I
Hmm.
had to
it doesn't want to
unfortunately
be
move it last week because I was ripping out Cryptospiralis,
yeah.
and in the process of moving all the Cryptospiralis, the crinum itself, it got dislodged, even though it had
Yeah.
like that much root. Like the
Ah,
roots were about that big, and it still got
hurts.
dislodged because the Crypt runners were so strong. So I
It
had to
hurt.
move.
And now it's mad at you.
Yeah.
Well,
Brooklyn
it's
can
going to be,
never
but
have this
I haven't gone
plant.
back home to see how it is doing yet. But
Yeah,
I'm
and
pretty sure
and
it's mad.
it can take a full 6 months to settle in once you
Yeah.
plant it. Like you cannot move it. So this is not for Brooklyn. This is not. It's not for her. We all need to know our limitations.
Hmm.
But as a general rule, crinum looks good in corners of tanks, in the back, or in the dead center. Like those
Hmm.
three spots are you generally fine putting them there.
Hmm. So Beck says Java Fern does well for her, and she and Geek Boy have pretty much the same water. So I've
But
got to
Bex
think. Yeah,
she
Beck
fertilizes diligently
does.
and a lot. So that's
Yeah.
probably what the difference is.
I think so. I
Mhm.
think that's it. And I have gone through this before when I've gotten lazy about fertilizing and then I started just really really doubling down and it made all the difference. It just made all the difference. And you won't see it overnight cuz Java fern is not like rotala fast growing,
Mhm.
but within like a couple months you'll really notice it. So, yeah, I think that's it.
Luke says my Cypress helpfori is also finally big enough to be noticeable. So mine in the back of my 40 has finally started to grow. I thought that Cypress helpfori was more narrow. Mine, the thickness of the leaves are almost indistinguishable from like Jungle Val.
Oh, no,
Hmm.
mine is
No,
pretty
you have
narrow. I
something
think
else in. Like I would say it's
I
no
I
thicker
think I
than like
might.
yeah,
a
because it should be
number
like
two
I'll send
pencil.
y'all
Like it's probably
pictures.
as two segments of
quarter
it. Yeah.
inch. Yeah, it's pretty narrow. And it has like a coarser, like Vallisneria has like those juicy kind of almost
Yeah.
transparentish leaves. It
Oh,
has,
let me
yeah, it has like,
enhance
it has
Myrtle.
kind of a little
Yep,
more
it's the
wire.
plant. That's which way was it? this stuff right here, this very long leaf that's going that
Okay.
way.
Yep.
Maybe I'll take it. I don't know. Maybe it just looks too thick compared to the other stuff I have in there. And like it's next to hair grass, so
I have some way in the back. And I just trimmed back my Blixa Albertii because it was out of control.
Here, I have a picture of it. I'm going to send it real quick to you so that I can show you what it looks like.
Let's see. Yeah, and it's just like with parva carpet. If you want to wait several decades,
87.5 years, yeah.
Yeah.
If you want a carpet of parva, I suggest you pay for one.
Yeah, he pretty much have to.
Because it could take years.
Let's see. So Rebecca says, would it be worth the freshwater hobby looking into automatic dosers? I'm wary of them as I prefer personal care. I've been considering an automatic doser.
Dosers. There are, yep.
Yeah,
I mean the same ones that are used for salt water. You just pour an all-in-one in one of those reservoirs.
Yeah.
It would probably do me good. Like I think I would.
And I think that reef people have been using these since at least 2005. So it's not new technology. It's pretty simple.
Dishwashers use them, so it's definitely not new technology. They've been in dishwashers for
I mean, but they've been in the hobby since like 2005. So I think it's probably, and I think that if it fails, it's going to fail off.
Yeah, and it's like an overdose of I don't know. Like what would happen if it did like a dump of Easy Green into your tank?
I think you would maybe get it.
How much of a dump?
Maybe
you'd just face an algae unless you're like dumping ridiculous amounts of it. There's not enough stuff to
twice
do
as
anything
much
with it.
green is not going to hurt your fish. The
Right.
is not going to hurt your fish. So I think that, I mean, for me, I fertilize every day, so it's easy to remember. But for you, Stephen, I don't know, maybe it'd be a good thing. And you like automation, and
I do, and fertilizing is one of those things that I am the least consistent with.
Yeah, I think that you should experiment with it on like one tank and see how it goes for you. And it's not super expensive. So, and for Rebecca, I think go for it. Like. I guess I can say this as a person who's kind of intimidated by technology. Like I am not very great with it. But like, I just have to do it. I just have to make myself do it. And
I mean, the barrier is always the inertia of getting started with it.
Exactly. And, for me, like sometimes I need help. But I think you should just go for it. If you're inclined to go for it, I think you should go for it.
So some rapid fire questions before Austin goes in a minute.
All right, Austin's going. Great.
So I think we missed Leo's question earlier about cyanobacteria.
And you don't want to up or lower the fertilizer. Just add erythromycin, a dose of that, and that'll get rid of it.
Literally one dose is all it's ever taken for me. And manually, if there's like sheets of it, manually remove all that crap because it's going to break down and get gross. And,
if it's like like I've also seen this work. Like if you have it like just in the edge of your substrate, you can like take a syringe with a needle and you could spray it down with peroxide. You can do that. But yeah, one dose of erythromycin, it'll be gone.
You cannot control.
How can I control where the new shoots come?
We just choose a species that doesn't send out long runners. Like Wentii generally sends out runners that are close to itself or just shoots off the mother plant itself.
Yeah.
So, don't plant Cryptspiralis where I am. It's infuriating. Hutteroi is another good one. Parva is so slow growing.
Lutea lucens, both of those. They send runners, but not as
lucens. That one is so slow.
Okay, has science come to a consensus on what activated charcoal removes of liquid fertilizers?
Charcoal will remove charged things. In a general way, it becomes adsorbed very quickly, but fertilizers
It pulls so much
are
stuff out that it's rendered useless in such a quick
very
time.
quickly. It is charged, however, because they are ions. So they're potassium, magnesium, phosphate. All of those are charged. So it is going to adsorb them, but it's going to adsorb that surface so quickly that it won't be doing anything, thus rendering the fertilizer somewhat useless. I mean, I know there's this aquachar business, and I don't really put any stock in that. I think that that's just the emperor's new clothes of activated charcoal. I mean, if it makes you happy to use it, if you think it saves your prize shrimp line or something, more power to you. But
people sing that stuff's praises, like,
whatever makes you happy. I don't buy it, but whatever makes you happy.
I'm gonna
Because
send
another
you
thing with
some.
activated charcoal is you need it to not get clogged with organics or anything else, because
Yeah.
for activated charcoal to work, it needs all of its surface area to be accessing the water column as things are going in there so that it can grab onto the ions and stuff. But if it gets clogged up with malum or detritus, it can't get at anything.
Right. Where carbon is useful is
Basically what Tommy just said, like, yeah, only lasts so long that starts to develop a massive algae. It gets clogged. It just becomes a pile of detritus in your filter.
It becomes a place for your filter bacteria to colonize, just like anything else. You know,
It gets gross. I don't like it.
Where carbon is useful is you can put a carbon block in your water line to remove chlorine.
Chlorine, yep.
Yeah.
Doesn't work on chloramines though, just chlorine.
Just chlorine. So like in my municipality, I have chlorine. And yes, and I said adsorb instead of absorb. Rebecca, I did.
Yeah,
I got
she's
you, girl.
she's praising you
I
for the use of that
you,
term.
girl. I got
Nice
you,
job.
girl.
Well, Austin has
bringing
gone
inside.
live, y'all. So
yeah, we gotta send you guys over there. Is he back from Colorado yet? I don't know.
he's
He is, yep. Today is back from
what it
home
says.
stream, yep. Back to home, yep.
Yeah, so he'll tell you about his vacation, which I hope he had a good time. But thank you, mods. We're so grateful for your help. Thank you, everyone who's here. Let's see. Replay squad.
And check out that pinned link at the top if you want to help Debbie's grandson. Some medical expenses there for sure.
Help him out. Yeah, lurkers, we love you. So cool to have some new names in chat. That was really awesome. We love having new people here.
Indeed.
And Myrtle, I'll miss you.
I'll see you all later in the fall. Yep.
I know.
You will not disappear.
In this, I will be in chats and everything. So yeah.
Damn right you will.
No. Well, like, what if you
not missing
you? Or like dye your hair green? We won't know.
I can assure you that neither of those two things will happen. If I am going to dye my hair, it's definitely not going to be green.
It would be really hard to bleach your hair enough to make it green.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, it would mess your hair up for a while.
Yeah.
That's why Jake is a blonde. I'm like, come on, Jake. It would be so easy for you to have blue hair. Just do it. But he won't.
And then you and Jake can have matching hairstyles, and you have that little bit of blue, and then Jake can have a little bit of blue in his hair too.
There you go.
That would make me so happy.
All right, y'all. See y'all. So we're not going to be streaming Wet Your Plants next week because I'll be in Disney World, and then the following week Kelly will be in Pondland doing pond things.
I will be sharing pictures of my progress. We're going to work very, very hard, and there's going to be so many ponds. So many ponds. I am really adding a lot of ponds. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. See y'all
All
later.
right, everyone.
All right.
Bye.
Later.